Good afternoon, Prynhawn Da. Very warm welcome to Groes Fine, just outside Cardiff, with me, Sian Roberts. I'm going to be making some Welsh cakes. Croeso cynnes iawn I chi, fan hyn I Groes Fine, just tu fas I Gaerdydd. Dwi'n mynd I fod yn gwneud picker ar gyfer dydd Gwyl Dewi. So it'd be lovely to know before we start making the Welsh cakes, how many of you are out there and whether anyone's in Wales or whether you're further afield. So if you could let me know in the chat where you're kind of joining us from, that'd be really interesting. I think this is a fabulous idea, a virtual village hall. I have to say, I'm not sure how you say that in Welsh. I think it's Neuadd Pentra Rhithiol. So if anyone out there is a Welsh speaker, they can maybe let me know. Okay, so it'd be nice to see where you're actually joining us from and also whether or not you've already made Welsh cakes. Welsh cakes is one of our most famous dishes, and a lot of people get quite heated about them, as in they like their mother's recipe or their grandmother's recipe, or mangi as we say in Welsh. If you vary from the traditional recipe, people get a little bit cross, but there we are. I'm going to be making traditional today, and so my name is Sian, and I have a company called Loving Welsh Food, and what we do is we run food tours in Cardiff and Vale of Glamorgan. And we also do some Welsh presentations, Welsh cooking presentations, demonstrations like today. And the whole aim of the kind of company really is to showcase Welsh food and drink, which I hope if you're joining us from Wales or if you've visited Wales that you will agree with us. We do have some fabulous culinary heritage. Okay, nothing as yet, never mind. So I'm going to get going. And once I start cooking, I'm actually going to move the camera down so you can see what I'm doing. As I said, I'm going to be making traditional Welsh cakes. Okay. Let's move the camera. I hope you enjoyed the session. Honestly, any comments, let me know, and I hope I can answer them. Don't make the questions too hard, but any comments would be great. Diolch i chi. Right, okay, so bringing the camera down. So you should now see the bowl. And what I've got here is I've got some self-raising flour in here, and I'm just going to add a quarter of a teaspoon of mixed spice. So mixed spice is a combination of lots of different kind of spices. Oh, there's quite a lot there, a little bit too much. So a quarter of a teaspoon, and it's got in it, it's got cinnamon, coriander, nutmeg, clove, pimento, and ginger. So if you don't have mixed spice, I know that actually in America, for example, they don't sell mixed spice, or in Europe, but you can use cinnamon or you can use nutmeg. So we mix this together because you want the spice to be evenly distributed throughout the Welsh cakes. Also, whenever you're making cakes, you really want to bring in as much air as possible. So by kind of folding this spice in, you're doing that. And the next thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be adding the butter. Now, this is what I think makes a perfect Welsh cake, salted Welsh butter. Some of you might disagree. Some of you, I think, might use half and half. Some people use marge, half marge, half lard. I'm very much a fan of Welsh butter. So I've got some here, and I'm just going to slice it, kind of dice it, because I'm going to be rubbing it in. And if you kind of do this, it's a bit quicker then to rub in. You can use a food mixer for this, which obviously is quicker. But I don't know about you, I find cooking quite therapeutic, and I quite like actually just the process of rubbing things in. It depends, on what you're making. I've been at tourist fairs, making Welsh cakes all day. We went to the World Travel Market one year and we were cooking 500 a day. I have to say I wasn't rubbing the butter into the flour then because it was much easier with a mixer. Okay, so you use the tips of your fingers and you're going to rub the butter into the flour. Okey-doke. So using Welsh butter, a country's cuisine is dependent on lots of factors. Geography and climate are the most important. And in Wales, we have lots of mountains. They say that if you roll Wales out, we're twice the size of England. I don't know if that's true. But we have ideal conditions for livestock. So lots of mountains for the Welsh sheep and the cattle. And then we also have dairy cattle. So lots of lovely dairy products. We've got butter, cream, ice cream, milk, and cheese. So they say that the secret for French cuisine is butter, butter, and butter. I think it's the same for actually most recipes, most cuisines. Butter always makes things better. So you're rubbing the butter into the flour and you're lifting it up a little bit so that you're getting air again into the recipe. And the idea is that it gets to look like breadcrumbs. So we talked about our fabulous butter. We also have some amazing cheeses. So we've got about 100 different cheeses now. When most people think of Britain, they think of cheddars, possibly, and blue cheese. Here in Wales and in Britain, we have a fantastic selection now of artisan traditional cheeses made with cow's milk, goat's milk, sheep's milk, even buffalo milk up in mid Wales, and lots of different kind of cheeses. So we've got hard cheese, soft cheese, semi-soft rind cheese, a huge selection. So basically, I'm going to show you now, you want it to look like breadcrumbs. You shake it so that the bits that still need rubbing in come to the top. And then I'm going to have a quick look at the comments because the computer is a little bit away from me and my eyesight's not brilliant. So I'll check the comments in a minute. But basically, you're going to make sure the butter's rubbed in really well. And I said, this is kind of, this is the method you use when you're making pastry and lots of different things. So there we are, that's good. I'm just going to check what's on the comments. Bear with me for a minute, I'm just going to move the camera. Okay, so how much butter? So I'm doing 125 grams of flour, so I'm doing half, which is 62.5 of butter. That's because I'm only making a small amount. If you're doing 250 grams, half the amount of butter, 125 grams of butter. Oh, we've got somebody from Milton Keynes. Hello. Oh, yeah, and actually, yes. So 60 grams of butter or 62.50. I mean, okay, lovely. Nice to see you all. Thank you for that. Yeah, keep the questions coming. So yes, so it's half the amount of butter for your, half the amount of flour for the recipe. So that's all mixed in. Then you add your sweet ingredients. Now, traditional recipe, I'm just going to move that up a little bit. Traditional recipe, you have some sugar. So I'm going to add the 50 grams of sugar. And then for traditional Welsh cakes, you normally use some kind of dried fruit, whether it's currants, raisins, or sultanas. So I put the sultanas in here. And I'm going to mix these through now. Now I have a friend who has a Welsh cake shop here in Cardiff. She's got two shops, one by the castle and one in Cardiff Bay. And she makes traditional Welsh cakes and different flavours. And a lot of people go in and they get very angry saying, oh, you can't put chocolate in a Welsh cake. She does chocolate and orange, white chocolate and cranberry. Amazing flavours, but traditional are the most popular. But people do get very protective about the recipe. Okay, so I've mixed this in together. And I'm going to crack the egg. I only need half an egg for this recipe and a little bit of milk. So I'm just going to beat the egg. So basically, it's we do Welsh cooking workshops and we do small amounts. So when you do the 125, it's 2 tablespoons of the egg. If you're doing the 250, then obviously it's a whole egg, but it should be a large egg. And if you do need a little bit more liquid, then with this recipe, I can add a bit more egg, or you can just add some milk. Okay, so I'm going to try with the 2 tablespoons. 1. Oh, 2. There we are. So a little bit more went in there, but there we are. So I'm going to mix that round. And again, you just want to mix this ingredient together. So my friend who has this lovely shop in Cardiff, beautiful recipe for the Welsh cakes. She won't give it to me, but mine is pretty good. And she was asked by Fortnum & Mason to send some products up. And they came back and they said, we love the product. We'd really like to have it in the shop, but the ratio of sultanas per cake is not consistent. Could you please make it more consistent? Excuse me, impossible. So she didn't have the contract. Okay, so you start off with a spoon. Let's just check the computer for anything first. Okie doke, anything else? No, we're fine. Okay, back to the cooking. So you start off with a spoon, then you put your hand in, and you use your hand. Basically, you want to bring it to form a dough. Now, normally, as with pastry, it's always a good idea, if you can, to chill the dough. And I haven't got time to do that today. The reason, especially with Welsh cakes, is that what happens when you cook them is that they will then keep their shape a little bit better. You can make different kinds of shapes. So if you are doing different shapes, then if you chill them, it's probably better. But there is no need, as in they cook beautifully as they are. Okay, so we've got that. We've got the dough. I'm going to get my rolling mat. sec. So I bought this rolling mat from Lakeland, and apparently they say that you don't have to use flour with it. Well, sadly, you do. So I'm going to put some flour on here. Oh, that's the sugar. I'll put some flour on. Got a little bit of sugar here, doesn't matter. Plenty of flour, because we're going to be rolling the Welsh cakes out. And I've already heated, I'm cooking on the griddle. I've already heated the griddle because the griddles take a while to heat up. So I literally heated it up 5 minutes before we started. So I'm just going to check it's okay. And when I cook, I'll be bringing the griddle in here for you to see. So yeah, all looking good. Yeah. Okay, I've got my rolling pin and I've got the cutter as well. So, oh, excuse me 1 minute. I'm doing a cooking demonstration in Swansea on Friday, and I've made a recipe ready for that. Okay, so you've got the dough, and we're going to so you put some flour onto your rolling pin as well. I've got the plate here to put them on. So you can see the logo for my company here. Very good product placement. Okay, so you're going to roll it out. So I tend to turn it while I'm rolling it to start so that it doesn't stick. And I would suggest being quite, there's no need to be aggressive with the dough. However, I have two nieces who live in Australia. Whenever they come, they adore coming to make Welsh cakes, and they absolutely whack the dough. I mean, dreadful, but they still taste brilliant. So there we are. So I've got my cutters. I've got quite a small cutter, and we're basically going to keep cutting until the dough is all used up. As I said, you can do different shapes. I think Valentine's Day is quite nice. You can do heart shapes, Christmas time. They're not as easy as biscuits for keeping a good shape, but if you keep to a fairly simple shape, then they're fine. I think I tried some Halloween one once, and nobody knew what they were. Okay, so they're just keeping going now, and the ratio of sultanas to the dough would not be good for Fortnum & Mason, but it's good for us. Okay, so there we are. And then we're going to just make sure we use all of the dough. No wastage. A bit more flour on here. I'm just going to check whether we've got any questions. A lot of flour. Okay, yeah. Well, it's actually, but yes, it's to stop it sticking really. And it doesn't make any difference to the recipe. They don't taste floury. Okay, so keep going with the cutting. And one more. So it's St. David's Day next week here in Wales, and St. David's Day, 1st of March, is our patron saint day, and everybody makes Welsh cakes. Welsh cake competitions. And as I said, you've got lots of different versions now. But on St. David's Day, people will be wearing either a daffodil, which is our national emblem, or a leek. We've got two national emblems. The reason being, in Welsh, leek is cennin, and in Welsh, daffodil is cennin pedr, and people got a bit confused, so they decided we should have two. So if you come here for an international day, Cardiff is a sea of red daffodil heads and leeks everywhere. Okay, so I've cut them all up. I've cut them out now with my shape. I'm just going to tidy as I go along. I did cooking school. I learned all about that. And we're going to start cooking them. I had a debate yesterday with a friend of mine who puts less sugar in her Welsh cakes than I do. But yeah, you can vary the recipe. Okay, so I'm going to bring the griddle now. Very careful because it's very hot. I've got a grass hob here, and I'm going to be cooking the griddle on here. Oh, the flour is self-raising. Yeah. If you haven't got self-raising, then just use plain flour with some baking powder. Okay, so we need a spatula. And the Welsh cakes are a bit like pancakes in the sense that you put a few on just to see how they're cooking. I don't know if you can hear that, but they've just started to sizzle, which is great. So you want them to sizzle, and ideally they should take a couple of minutes, but the first ones always take a little bit longer than the others. I'm going to put them on here. I've got my cooling tray somewhere. Right, if I put these here. So I was at a fair once in Germany, a travel fair, where we were going to, I'm going to just put down a little bit, and the Welsh cakes are always so popular because I'm just going to check. Oh, they're actually browning already here, which is brilliant. So you've got your spatula to keep turning them, and the idea is that you cook them for a couple of minutes. They also keep cooking when you take them off the griddle, so you don't overcook them. But this guy in Germany came up and he said, "Oh, these Welsh cakes, these are delicious cakes. What are you calling them?" And I said, "Oh, they're called Welsh cakes." "Ah, yeah." I said, "So are they pancakes?" And I suppose because it's cooked on a griddle, they look a bit like pancakes, but they're not. And I said, no, they're called Welsh cakes." "Ah, yeah, okay. So are they scones?" I said, no, they're not scones, they're Welsh cakes. And they said, "Are they blinnies?" So yeah, so basically they're Welsh cakes. And I mentioned earlier that a country's cuisine is dependent on geography and climate. The cooking equipment also kind of decides what recipes people could make. And lots of people in Wales couldn't afford an oven, so they used to cook over an open fire. Lots of our recipes are soups and casseroles. They'd cook in big cauldrons, and then they'd have a griddle or a bake stone to make biscuits, bread, Welsh cakes, etc. So that's the recipe for scones is quite similar, but the difference is they are cooked on a griddle. Okay, so I would rather this one, they're browning up quite a little bit distance here, browning. I've got a gas hob, so you can see that the heat is going to be here. The longer you heat the griddle, the more constant the heat will become. But as I said, it's always worth trying the first ones, like your pancakes, and then we'll add the rest afterwards. What else do we make on the griddle? So yes, you've got oat biscuits that used to be made, pancakes called crempog in Welsh, and then of course there's one thing they call Sian lap, which is a big fruit cake. So lots of things were made on the griddle. So Welsh cooking, lots of the recipes are very simple because primarily it was the wives or partners of farmers, fishermen, miners, quarrymen who were cooking. They couldn't afford many exotic ingredients. So most of our recipes are quite plain, if you like. It's not like France, Italy, China, where you have lots of exotic ingredients where the wealthy people could afford exotic dishes. Okay, so these are cooking quite well here. So I'm going to add a few more. And then we're going to get going. I'm going to see if we've got any questions here. So has anyone out there made Welsh cakes? Is their recipe different to mine? I know that some people won't share their secret recipes with you. Okay, so they're sizzling as it is. You can use a pancake pan. I think that they actually cook a bit nicer on a griddle, but not everyone has a griddle, obviously. So what else? So with my company, we do Welsh food tours. Until lockdown, we used to do Welsh cookery workshops with students. We used to have lots of students who come to Cardiff from China to study English, and we used to do a number of workshops with them. One of them was the Welsh cakes, which they loved. They don't eat many sweet things, so they were always shocked by the amount of sugar that we put in. And we also do another recipe, which is called Glamorgan sausages. Now, Glamorgan sausages is a vegetarian sausage made primarily with breadcrumbs, Welsh cheese, like a cheddar or a hard cheese, some leeks, carrots, eggs, and we also put mustard in ours. So Chinese people don't eat much bread, they don't eat much cheese, and they're always a bit shocked by the mustard. So their reactions to the recipe was always quite interesting. But they absolutely loved the making of the sausages. Right, so these are brown on both sides. I'm going to take those off. And what you have to do is you have to kind of work out where the hottest part of the griddle is. And you have to kind of keep, this is a Welsh term, you have to shiggle. You have to shiggle them all around. So I would rather they cook slowly than burn them, because the problem is if you put the heat too high, they'll tend to burn and not cook in the middle. While these are cooking, I'm just wondering, so I spoke before you joined us about a new event that we have. During lockdown, we weren't able to do any food tours, obviously, because all our venues were shut. And so one of the things we started to do, one of my guides is an actor, and we started to do something called Music, Poems and Pints, which is an evening of Welsh entertainment, music, poetry. And we're now running our first one in the flesh, if you like, next week on Sunday in beautiful hotel in Cardiff, the Coal Exchange. So Cardiff used to be the biggest port in the world for exporting coal from about the 1870s to 1920s, 1910. It was known all over the world. At the moment, people haven't heard very much of Wales. We're way behind England, Ireland and Scotland for tourism. But at that time, Wales was definitely on the map. And Cardiff Bay was a port so busy. And the exchange was where the price of coal was decided. And so it's been transferred into a luxury hotel now. And that's where I was. I'm just wondering if we can play the video while these are cooking. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit because it's a little bit slow. What do you think, Victoria? I'm very careful with these griddles. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit. Yeah. It's so heavy. Let's just turn it a little bit. Okay, any questions? Anybody here? Anybody made any Welsh cakes? Are you going to make them now? Aha. Right, so these here. Okay, these are cooking nicely. Ooh. I sometimes make really small ones that you can have with a coffee, which is really nice. So you know when they're cooked, basically, when they're quite squidgy, culinary term. Oh, I've lost the thing. Let me go back down here. They're quite squidgy. And then when they're cooked, they're a little bit, you see here, they're a little bit firmer to the touch, if you like. I'm going to try and just show you one here. So here, it's quite firm to the touch, as opposed to the one that's not cooked. If you have a look, which is, I can leave a dent on it. Okay, so they're cooking 2 by 2, like Noah's Ark. But there we are. As I said, I'd rather do it slower. And at the moment, it's just cooking in this area here. Because, okay, I'll try a little bit harder. There we are. Okay. So, the perfect way to enjoy a Welsh cake is with a Welsh cup of tea. So, paned o de a pice ar y maen. So, paned o de is a cup of tea, and pice. Some people will actually serve them with butter on them. With a recipe like this, you don't need to put butter in at all. But if you've made it with the lard, possibly, then it's worth putting a bit of butter on top, salted. There also are Welsh cakes that were made in the valleys. They were called slashers because there are lots of different names for Welsh cakes. There are round cakes, bakestone cakes. In Welsh, we've got cacenni cri, pice bach. But in the valleys, they were called slashers. You didn't put any mixed fruit in them, so no fruit, but you would slice them open and serve them with jam. A friend of mine came down from Aberdare to live in Cardiff and was absolutely horrified that we had fruit in our Welsh cakes. Kind of, ruined her life. Okay, so I'm taking these off because they're cooked nicely now. I'm just going to move these back on. The ideal thing to have is an electric hob that cooks everything, perfectly all the way through. But as I said, there's no rush. Slow food, slow living. And then I would, when they're ready, I'm going to put a little bit of sugar on them. I'm going to put them onto a plate. So there we have the end product. Can you see that? Ooh. I'm going to go here. There we are. Not really good with the camera. There we are. So you've got Welsh cakes here. We used to, I don't know if anybody of you are in from in the Cardiff area, we have a lovely museum, which is an open-air museum, and we did some Welsh cake workshops there. And we had kids coming along, and some of the boys are very competitive. And I mentioned once that I think I'd managed, so with this amount, I get 1, 2, 6, 9, 12, say 20 Welsh cakes. And the boys were all having competitions as to how many they could make. And I think one little boy made something like 60. Well, I'm not kidding. They were like discs. They were not Welsh cakes. They were tiny, tiny little discs that he was, but he was very pleased to have broken the record for the Welsh cakes. Okay, so they're cooking quite nicely there. Oh, here we are. Okay, lovely demo. Sure, they taste wonderful, but nothing like my recipe from my Welsh grandmother. Ours are twice the depth and made with lard and butter. Aha, okay. Well, interesting. So yes, I'm going to sit here for a second. So you can, lard and butter. I mean, personally, I do prefer just butter. Obviously, it's more expensive. They're a little bit drier, really. But yeah, everyone's recipe is different. I put in mixed spice. Some people put in cinnamon. A friend of mine, I think, puts a bit of marmalade in hers. These are cooking now nicely. If you don't have a griddle, then I would suggest you can use a pancake pan. But the best would be, the Le Creuset, the really heavy-based frying pan. I think that would be the best thing for you. Don't put them in the oven. We did a demonstration once. We went out to Munich. To the embassy. It was a St. David's Day occasion, and the chef put them in the oven. They didn't taste anything like Welsh cakes, but the chef wouldn't have it, so there we are. Good, I'm glad you think that they sound delicious. As I said, so yes, so you need to make them for St. David's Day. And yes, so I think Rita was saying that yours are much bigger. Personally, I just like them a little bit smaller. You can make them, as in this size. They obviously take a bit longer to cook. But yeah, so I'm coming to the end of mine now. Another thing that we used to make on the griddle is pancakes, obviously. So you have lots of Welsh dishes are very similar to Northern European dishes because a lot of the cooking equipment was the same. In some countries, the same ingredients. And you have different kinds of pancakes. So in Wales, we have crempog, and they're more like, quite similar to drop scones in Scotland. In France, you obviously have crêpes, which are the much larger ones. So it's quite interesting to see the different countries. We also have cawl, which is a stew made with lamb and vegetables, very similar to pot-au-feu in France, Eintopf in Germany. So lots of the Northern European recipes are quite similar, but nobody makes Welsh cakes. So they're very much unique to Wales. Okay, so these are nearly done. I hope that you enjoyed this demonstration. What else can I tell you? So yes, we run our food tours. The idea is that maybe some of you have been on a food tour. It's quite a new concept. So you come to Cardiff, for example, a city, and you have a guided tour, but rather than just a guided tour sightseeing, you'll stop and have some different tasters. Obviously, on our tour, we do include Welsh cakes, and they're allowed to choose whether they have traditional or the different flavours. I actually, the other day, was making Welsh cakes, and my son gets very cross with me because I never check if I have all the ingredients. And I didn't have any sultanas. So rather than put fruit in, I put the zest of a lemon in and lemon juice in with the egg. Oh my goodness, they were absolutely delicious. So it's very much a recipe that you can try different flavors with. And I think it's great that you take a traditional recipe and you bring it into the 21st century. Jo, my friend, so she has a shop in Cardiff, opposite the castle, and also in Cardiff Bay, which is a beautiful place to go walking. It used to be the very busy port. When coal became less important, it became much quieter and not really very nice area. So they've regenerated it now, and it's a fabulous place to walk around. We have a barrage, a huge freshwater lake, lots of cafes and restaurants, and lots of people go there to go walking with their dogs. And they told Jo that the Welsh cakes are delicious, but they couldn't give them to their dogs because they've either got chocolate or sugar in them. So she now makes something called woof cakes, which is as in woof, W-O-O-F, and in the shape of bone, and they have carrot in them rather than sugar, which I think is amazing. So, okay, so I'm done. My Welsh cakes are done. Any more questions? I don't think so. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you will make the cakes. actually really nice to take to people as well if you go and have a cup of tea with someone or coffee. It's just a very nice gift. And if you don't have a griddle, as I say, if you can, Le Creuset heavy base frying pan. Pancake pan will do, but I think they taste nicer on the griddle. And yeah, Rita, I know that you do your lard and butter. I'm going to stick with the butter, but yeah, every recipe is different, and you kind of change it to your taste if you like. So my friend Neris, with this recipe, would put 125 grams of flour. She would only put in about 40 grams of sugar. I put in, I think I said, 50. Again, you vary that according to what what your tastes are. So yes, enjoy with a cup of tea. Gyda paned neis o de. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm hoping that they'll be able to play you our video. It's in Welsh, so it was filmed by a Welsh television channel about the evening, because we had a trial evening, and it'll just show you a little bit about what the evening is. And if you are interested, then I think my details are on the website. I think it's an amazing organisation. What you do is fantastic. So yeah, thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr. Happy cooking. Or in Welsh, cooking your hapus.
Welcome to our evening of music, poems and pints.
Be sydd gennym ni heno yw grŵp o bobl sy'n teithio gyda'r cwmni One Traveller, sy'n trefnu teithio bobl sengl, a maen nhw'n dod ar daith o 10 diwrnod trwy Gymru. A wedyn I ni'n rhoi noswaith o ddidanwch iddyn nhw, sef music, poems and pints.
I would now like to introduce you to Rihanna.
I ganu o flaen cynulleidfa byw, sa I wedi gweld gwynebau yn edrych lan at y fi tra bod fi'n perfformio am oes nawr, mae'n teimlo, a fi'n gobeithio ei ben iawn.
My name is Phil.
Mae gwledd yn aros i'r gynulleidfa heno, gwledd o farddoniaeth a gwledd o gerddoriaeth. A'r, wrth gwrs, y gwledd maen nhw'n bita yn barod. So, nhw'n edrych mlaen a ni'n edrych mlaen I gloddesta, os ga I roi e fel yna.
I was in the film Lassie. I played the lead.
Ar noson fel hon, bydd na tym bach o dyn ni cwrs, achos mae yna gystadleuaeth limerick dyn ni. A tro diwetha wnaethon ni'r sioe ma'n fyw, dath cwpl lan, a wir I ti, bys nhw byth yn ennill cader yn unrhyw steddfod, o'n nhw'n hopeless. Os ydyn nhw'n hopeless, wy'n gweithio nhw.
So fi sy'n cael y job pwysig o edrych ar ôl Phil a Iei heno yma, ond yn anffodus fi wedi dysgu trwy gweithio gyda nhw am gymaint o flynyddau bod hynna'n swydd amhosib, so gawn ni weld.
When spring awakens the hearts of the young children to sing, what song shall be theirs?
Wel, ni wedi cael noson arbennig eto, ond I gweud y gwir, wy'n socan chops. A ti feddwl bod fi wedi gwneud 2 awr o ader o lemes, adrodd cerddi dwi wedi bod yn dweud. Ond mae wedi bod yn noson arbennig a wyn. Fel actor, mae jyst mor neis I fod o flaen cynulleidfa byw, a na beth wy'n gwerthfawrogi heno. A oedd e'n neis bod nhw'n werthu'n yn y mannau iawn I fyd.
Wy'n gobeithio bydd nhw'n mynd o yma heno yn gweud, right, wy'n gwybod nawr beth yw diwylliant Cymru o'r diwedd.
It's been a lovely evening, and the music from Wales. I mean, Wales is the land of song anyway, isn't it? We've got beautiful Welsh voices, and it's just lovely to hear people singing.
Mae mami wastad yn gweud, pan mae'n edrych ar Eisteddfod yr Urdd a gweld y bobl ifanc yn perfformio, dyn ni ddim yn sylweddoli pa mor gyfoethog ydyn ni fel gwlad. Mae rhywbeth special iawn am byti fe, a mae'n lyflu bod ni yn cael brolio mewn ffordd, ynddo fe, beth sydd gennym ni yng Nghymru.
Iechyd da.
Fal dir al dir lan, fal dir al dir lan.